There is a new idea of welfare. In Europe, especially in the north, but I say also in Italy, there has been a very good welfare. You are the citizen, I am the state, I do whatever you need. The result is very costly, and the citizen was very passive. Now there is no money enough. So this model of welfare is collapsing. But there is a new idea of welfare that is appearing, that is a welfare where nobody is totally passive. Everybody has some capability to be active and to be part of the solution. So there is a shift in considering the user as a problem toward considering the user as somebody capable of doing something. And the service is not offering the solution, but offering the possibility for the people to solve the problem by themselves. And this is very clear for the elderly people. I am an elderly people statistically, and I'm still here talking. And there are a lot of elderly people in the same condition. So if you consider the elderly people only as a problem, it's a huge problem that cannot be solved in Europe, in China, and probably in a while in Australia too. Because the pyramid is so many elderly people and so few young people. But the elderly people very often are energetic, they are in good health, they can do a lot of things, and the only problem that they have, they feel to be useless. So if instead trying to solve their own problem, you try to motivate, to help them in solving their own problems, you transform a problem in an opportunity, because all those people can be people very active, not only for themselves, not only also for the other elderly, but for all the society. And we see organization in which there is this kind of mutual help. And we can find it in Europe, of course, probably also in Australia, but we can find it also in China. Well, the problem of elderly people in China will be very, very complicated, as you know. There is something very interesting, I don't know if you have it, a kind of agency that permits to put together an elderly people and a very young student. This is a kind of symbiotic. The elderly people very often live in a big house. There was the house of the family. At that point, maybe it's alone. And the house is very big, but they like to be in this house. So they don't have energy, but they have a big house. There is a young person that have energy and not house. If you find a way to put them together, it's a win-win strategy. The two could have a very interesting symbiotic relationships. You can say, okay, but to rent a room to somebody is not a new thing. But this organization is much more clever, because for an elderly people it's not so easy to find a young person. And for a young person it's not so easy to go to the elderly people. And so they try to match the two and to find a way to find the two persons that could stay well together. And they help the elderly people to upgrade the quality of the house, for instance, very banally, putting an internet connection that normally is not in the house of elderly people, to make the situation more interesting, more attractive. And look, this is really a 100% sustainable solution, because sustainable solution is, first of all, to use the resources that you have. And in this case, you have houses not well used, and the energy of people not well used. And you can put them together and you obtain a win-win solution, simply reorganizing some potential resources that you have. And the same could be said for the nursery at home. I will not be long now, but it's the same. You have a flat with maybe a woman, it could be also a man, but normally it's a woman, with a kid. She's able to take care of the kids, and she has a big house. So if in the same house you put many kids, not many, 4 or 5 kids, you solve the problem, you use the house that exists, you use the capability that this woman has, you give some revenue to this woman, and you create a very friendly relationships between the woman and the other mother and fathers. The time bank, possibility to create a kind of neighborhood where people give some help each other, because, well, you know what is a time bank. I'm sure that it exists also in Australia, as it exists in Europe. But something similar you can find in China, even if I delete the image, but something similar you can find also in places where there is a mixture. Again, it's a kind of leapfrog. In the village in Africa, maybe somebody of you know, there is the Ubuntu spirit. That means the spirit of the village. But the Ubuntu spirit in some way is crashing against the individualization. And now there are some tendency to rediscover the Ubuntu spirit in the new way, that is, to exchange some help each other. So the welfare moved towards something we can call an active welfare, based on mutual help, based on cycle of care in between different people. Okay. If you are interested, you can find hundreds of cases on our site, or you can download these books that present these cases that are a result of several years of work. So the synthesis is there are people inventing new ways of living. We call them creative communities because they are a new shape, a new case of community, and in some way they are creative because they break the mainstream way of thinking and doing, and they try to do things in a different way. And they all are case of social innovation. How? 10 minutes? Social innovation is not an invention of me. Social innovation exists. If you are interested, please look. This Young Foundation is, for me, the best example of a foundation working on social innovation. I've learned a lot from them, I have to say, and I invite you to look what they are. Our definition of social innovation are process of change where the new ideas are generated by the actor directly involved in the problem to be solved. This is very important. It's a change in the idea of who are our interlocutor. The majority of the problems have some experts that normally are not considered. The experts that normally are not considered are the ones that are directly involved in the problem. And to give the opportunity or to see the opportunity for these people to find solution because they are inside the environment in which the problem appears is very important. The Young Foundation says that social innovation, as the technological innovation, has some wave. I think that maybe some of you is familiar with the idea that the innovation is not flat. Innovation has some waves in innovation. And hundreds of students studied how the technical innovation moves. Well, I think that somebody should put the same energy in looking to the social innovation. A Young Foundation did something like this, and they discovered that you have waves of social innovation when there are some conditions. There are mainly two conditions. The society that has to innovate has to be stressed by problems, and the society has to be presently invested by waves of technological innovation. So if we put these 2 points together, we can see why Young Foundation says that we are now facing a big wave of social innovation. Because to tell that there are problems is quite obvious. And we know that in the past decades, a lot of new technology, very pervasive technologies, mainly the information and communication technology, spread into the society. So the society is largely has opportunity and access to some technology that was inconceivable until a few years ago. The only issue is that it has become immediately in some way banal. But you know, the mobile phone is distributed everywhere, even in China. The 80-something% of the households have a mobile phone, but not only of the Chinese that are the modern China, but also the Chinese in the villages, the Chinese in the West. In Africa, there is a boom of the mobile phone. So what does it mean, billions of people with such a powerful tool as a mobile phone? As you have understood, I am not at all technologically addicted. But society is based on communication. And when communication, the media of communication change the form of organization. It's enough to say how a society changed when they moved to be not literate to be literate, or without printing to word printing. Now we have an incredible media two converging in one. Let's say the mobile and the computer are converging in one thing. What will happen? For sure will happen something that we cannot imagine. For sure you know that Nokia, for instance, is sending ethnograph around in the world to look how people use a mobile phone, because there are a lot of invention. Also we are not Nokia, but we have a line of research to see how people use the digital systems. And you can find incredibly interesting things that can happen. So this is the idea about social innovation always existed, but very probably now we are in the phase in which from this kind of innovation a lot can appear. And this idea is not only an idea of a minority, but it's an idea that is moving toward the top. This is Mr. Barroso, that is the president of the European Community, that said that social innovation is important, but I like even more this one. In the new office in the White House, there is an office on social innovation. This is very interesting, because it means that this idea is moving from a kind of under-the-water discussion toward the very visible level. And this, if you read it, is what Mr. Obama's wife, Michelle, said. That could be a very good to start a discussion that I don't know how much I could develop on what design can do. Because she said the idea is simple: to find in the reality, in the world, existing effective programs, not to invent them. We need to invent, but in this case it's not inventing something brand new. Look around, you can find them. And afterward, to do what is possible to do, to make these programs replicable, to make this good idea spread into the society. And here, Michelle Obama do not say that, but I say that the design part enter into the discussion. And until now, if you look in the site of my friends of the Young Foundation, you can find very interesting things. These very interesting things are told with a language that is mainly the language of the policymaker and of the social managers. I think that a design approach is needed too. And in the few minutes that I have, I want to give you a flavor of what design for social innovation could be. First of all, as you can read here, design for social innovation is not another discipline of design, as a product design, service design, or whatever. Design for social innovation is simply to do what we have always done. Designers look to innovation and try to do something. The issue is that until now we have been trained to look to the technological innovation and to see, this has been written, how to humanize technology, bringing the technological innovation into the society. So we are a kind of bridge maker in between technology and society. Still, this has not to change. The difference that does not avoid the other one, that still remain valid, but on the top of that, we have also to look towards society, to see what in society is happening that is interesting, and to try to find product, service, and technology that could enable similar activities, to make them, as I said before, more solid in time, more capable to last, more capable to be replicable. So this is what we have to do. And what we have to do is, we call them, it's a little bit a difficult term, enabling solutions. So it means set of products or services that can enable group of people to do something that otherwise will be very difficult to be done. As a matter of fact, each example that I show you, in general, if you look inside, there is a hero or a group of people that are a kind of hero that has been able to break the normal way of doing and to do something differently. Now, talking in managerial terms, to imagine to spread this idea, the limiting factor are the heroes. There are not so many heroes. And also the heroes have a kind of biological curve. You can be a hero for some years. You cannot be a hero for 50 years. So as for every innovation, you have to keep the idea when there is a hero that is able to do it, and after in some way to stabilize. I will use a term that maybe sounds not so good, to normalize it. So here is what designer for social innovation can do, to observe what in society happens, very often because there are some heroes, and to find, let's say, a toolkit, a number, a set of product or service that can help to make similar things in an easier way. If you want, the case that I show you, more or less, was a kind of prototype, working prototype. So somebody had an idea and has been able to do it. In some way, at least the designer will understood what we had to do if we recognize that there is something interesting, to move from the phase of the prototype to the phase of a more mature inverted comma product. There is a little bit of theory that I can give you only something, but I will skip it. The theory can start from, I think, first of all, I think that you have to start from the observation of the reality, but you have to have a theoretical background. Maybe because I'm a boring professor, but I think that without theory you are lost. So you need some theory. This theory starts from Lao Tzu, and for sure you know this expression. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So in nuts, here is the basis of the idea. We should develop products and services not to solve the problems, but to help people to solve the problems. And we can move from Lao Tzu 2,500 years ago toward Illich. Maybe some of the elderly people here remember Illich and the ideas of tool of conviviality, but we can move directly to Amartya Sen, that in my view should be one of the major pillars of a new design culture. I don't know if you know him. He's very well known because he had a Nobel Prize for several motivations. But I want to say, Amartya Sen established a theory of a way to evaluate the quality of life that was not based on the normal way of doing. That was when you have a good society, equal society, when you imagine everybody with a box, and in this box everybody has more or less the same things. He said, different condition makes that what you have in the box can have different meaning. So it's not so much important to see what you have. It's important to see what you are able to do. And using his words, the idea of equality is that everybody should be free to do what they want to do and to be what they want to be. So the good society is a society where people are enabled to have the same level of freedom, of choice. And I think that this is the basis of our idea of the enabling solutions. But you can look to these people to see what they are able to do and to give tools, knowledge, and what is necessary to use their own capabilities. And as a matter of fact, the Amartya Sen's theory is called the capabilities approach. That means the approach in which you try to increase the capability of people to solve their own problem, to be what they want to be and to do what they want to do. And when we do like this, we delete the idea of the user, we delete the idea of the consumer, and we take the idea of the actors. We are working for intelligent, clever people capable to do things. And we who in very general sense create environments and create product, service, artifacts, to help to improve the capability of people to do what they want to do and to be what they want to be, included what they want to do together as a community. The precondition to talk about design is to move from the most traditional idea of design as product designer or simply graphic designer and to think in a systemic way, considering the product, the service, and the overall system. And to develop the idea that there is a strategic design, a service design, a communication design, of course. And very important, when in Italy, but everywhere you say, you are a designer, who is your client? You have to talk with the industry. Of course, we have to talk with the industry, but not only. If you think in terms of mobility, you have not to talk. Your client is not necessarily Fiat or Mercedes. If you talk about mobility, your client could be the local authority, could be local association. So if you start to think in these terms, you first of all have to try to understand what is the core of being designer or the design culture, and afterward open the possibility to think that you can discuss and be promoter with a lot of diversity of entity. That, by the way, is what is happening in the world, even if the stereotype is design businesses. Design business, yes, but not only. There are a lot of other things, maybe even more important. To work with social innovation, you can work in two ways. You can work into the community, as a part of the community, or you can work for the community. That is two different modalities. I could add, in my experience, that if you don't work a little bit into the community, you cannot work for the community because you cannot understand what is happening. But the two things are very important. Maybe we can discuss afterward. You could be a facilitator of the process. We can, for instance, this is our case, we developed some specific tool as this card. You know the IDEO cards? Maybe some of you knows. Well, we developed other kind of cards to permit people to discuss. This was a discussion about co-housing. And we prepared 40 different cards that permit to people that are not particularly trained in design to discuss together and to arrive to a common idea of what they wanted to do. We had, as I say, 40 cards like this. Of course, there is a typical co-design process in which there are interactions between different people. But as I said, we can design, when I understood how the single community work, we can design for the communities. And this could be another lecture that I will do another time. It's a fantastic potential use of the digital platforms. The digital technology has played a very dramatically important role in destroying the traditional communities. This is true. You chat from here with Italy instead of chatting with your neighborhood. This happened. But at the same time, when society are fluid, you could not do any one of the solutions that I proposed, the case that I showed before, if you don't have the telephone, because otherwise people do not meet. And the digital platform could be a reorganizer of the society. They can permit to do something that would be very difficult to be done in a different way. And if you look in the website, in this way, you find a lot of rubbish in which our website to chat about everything, but you start to find, we have a line of research on this, a lot of websites that are really a kind of bridge in between communities that are very large digital communities that, as in the Smart Mob, they met people, they are together, they do something together. This was the mutual help that I was saying before. You can look at it, it's very interesting. This is for diabetics. You can also develop specific products. You can have a co-housing using a normal washing machine, but when you have a co-housing, you can decide to produce washing machines specifically designed for community of people. You can have new spaces where something happens together. You can put all this together, is what I'm trying to do now, and create scenarios. This is just to give you the flavor, a scenario that we have built about a sustainable way of living based on the cases that I showed you before. You can design specific solutions. As I said, we were working on co-housing, and what we did a kind of platform that permit to people that want to live nearby to do it in an easier way. And this move look into the co-housing that exists and finding where there are the problems and defining a certain number of interventions that can be done to make co-houser easier. And we have a website. It's in Italian, but you can look at it. Now it's not a university that do it now. Now it's a company, a real company, and there is a very large community of interest, and we are facilitator to make people to share same idea of what they want to do together. And we arrived in the area about Milano to start in 1 year 6 new projects supported. You can say supported co-housing. And finally, just to give you the flavor, we can work at the territorial scale. This is one example. It's a project that we have, I was mentioning before, in this rural-urban area. Our way of planning, we are not planners, so the way in which we plan is called acupunctural planning. That means to intervene in very punctual place, imagining that they can generate larger dynamics of change. So in this big area, we have found out 7 interventions. These are the maquette, a farmer market, a visitor center, a rural cultural center, a horticultural, and so on. Partly in the farm, partly in the city. We give all this a name, a brand, and luckily, I'm very happy to announce, ladies and gentlemen, with this I finish, that this project has been financed also before, but now is financed more heavily to be really done, because maybe you know that after Shanghai, the next Universal Exposition will be in Milano in 2015, and it will be about food and sustainability. And this project has been financed to be a kind of window of what the notion of zero-mile food and direct relationship between city and farm side could be. So hopefully we will not only make studies on this, but we will realize it. We are doing something similar also in China and also in Brazil. I skip it and I conclude. A little bit of formality. To build a sustainable future means to use the planet resources. If we have a small planet, very highly connected with a very dense population, social resource is probably the most abundant one. So again, looking in this positive way, if we say we are 7 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion, we can say this is the problem. We are too many. Yeah, okay, it's a problem. But at the same time, the people, it's him, she, you, the other one, me. The people are intelligent. The people could be creative. So we have to look in a different way. We have 7 billion people and tomorrow 9 billion of intelligent entities that should be challenged. And of course, the system could make the people take the stupid part, the lazy part of the people, or can try to empower the positive side of these billions of people. So the challenge of social innovation and the challenge of design for social innovation is exactly this one, to help to catalyze the potentiality in terms of creativity of all this quantity of people and to create a sustainable world. For this, we have an international network, I said. This is worldwide. Here in Australia, I don't know. I challenge here putting a yellow dot saying maybe, and this all. Thank you.